Imagine you have been driving for 14 hours straight. I mean, your vision is literally starting to blur at the edges.
Oh man, yeah. We have all been in that kind of exhausted state at least once.
Exactly. And the fog is rolling in so thick you can barely see the hood of your own car, and your brain is just screaming for sleep.
Just running on absolute fumes.
Right. And then up ahead, there is this hand-painted, flickering sign offering a cabin bed for $60. Do you stop?
Most people probably would, honestly.
But what if a total stranger at a gas station looked you dead in the eye an hour earlier and said, "She told me not to stop"?
Yeah, that changes things quite a bit.
Okay, let's unpack this, because for you listening right now, the mission for today's deep dive is exploring exactly what happens when the human mind is pushed to its absolute breaking point in total isolation.
And we are pulling from a really fascinating, honestly, deeply unsettling transcript from the YouTube channel Mr. Midnight.
Yeah, the video is titled 3 Scary True Roadside Cabin Horror Stories, and the subtitle is She Told Me Not to Stop.
So we're looking at 3 independent accounts here, spanning from late 2021 to late 2023. And these involve entirely unconnected professionals.
Right, like totally different walks of life.
Exactly. We have a freight driver, a timber cruiser, and a compliance auditor. And they are working in vastly different geographic locations. We are talking Oregon, Maine, and Indiana.
Which is wild, because despite the thousands of miles between them, they share this genuinely terrifying through line.
Yeah, the overlap is impossible to ignore.
We see the exact same highly specific sensory details, like the sudden, overwhelming stench of old copper and industrial bleach.
And this recurring archetype of an abnormally massive, menacing man.
Yes. And most importantly, we have this singular viral warning passed from person to person, like some kind of cursed relay baton, which is, "She told me not to stop."
Well, to understand how someone could willingly walk into these nightmare scenarios, we really have to look at the mechanics of sheer physical exhaustion.
Because exhaustion just ruins your judgment, right?
Absolutely. When you are sleep deprived, your prefrontal cortex, which is the part of your brain responsible for complex decision-making and risk assessment, it essentially just powers down.
It goes offline.
Exactly. Your brain shifts its entire focus away from long-term survival and fixates exclusively on resolving the immediate biological deficit, which in this case is sleep.
And that biological override is exactly what hijacked Jesse Miller in November 2021. So Jesse is a hotshot driver.
Which is a brutal job.
Oh, incredibly brutal. For those unfamiliar, hotshot drivers haul heavy, time-sensitive industrial parts. So they are often driving these incredibly long hours just to meet very strict delivery windows.
Yeah, they're always on the clock, always rushing.
Right. And he is hauling equipment for timber mills up Route 31 in northern Oregon. It is early winter, visibility is cut down to maybe 20 feet because of this suffocating, freezing fog, and he has been awake since 3 in the morning.
So he represents the absolute perfect target profile for an opportunistic predator.
Because he is so vulnerable.
Exactly. He is isolated, physically compromised by exhaustion, and he is battling severe environmental hazards that literally force him to slow down and look for shelter.
And the terrifying part is that the universe actually throws up these massive red flags to try and stop him.
Yeah, multiple red flags.
He pulls into a rundown fuel station to grab coffee, and the cashier, this local woman in her 50s, notices his route. She tells him point blank that if he sees a sign for cabin rentals past mile marker 42, he needs to keep driving.
And her specific phrasing is so chilling.
Right. She says, "Someone told me not to stop when I was younger. I'm telling you now, keep driving."
It is a direct, multi-generational warning. It has been passed down.
But wait, it actually happens twice.
Yeah.
He gets near mile marker 42. He sees a hand-painted plywood sign reading cabin nightly cash, and he pulls over.
Despite the warning.
Yeah, and just to keep himself awake, he calls his sister. When he mentions the location, she panics. She repeats a warning their own father gave about that exact stretch of road.
Her dad warned them too.
Yes. She literally says someone told him not to stop too.
Wow.
But Jesse completely ignores both of them and calls the number on the plywood sign.
The psychology of what happens next is just crucial here. Jesse speaks to a man named Arthur, and Jesse specifically notes that Arthur's voice is completely flat.
Like zero emotion whatsoever.
None. Zero hospitality.
Well,
Arthur just demands $60 cash left on the table and issues one incredibly strange instruction. He says, "The bedroom curtains are pinned shut. Leave them alone."
see, you hear that and you immediately think, okay, serial
Or
killer.
100%.
Right.
From a behavioral profiling standpoint, that flat effect is a classic indicator of psychopathy, or at least extreme predatory detachment.
He's not even trying to be friendly.
No, because Arthur isn't trying to charm Jesse. He is lowering Jesse's arousal state by sounding completely bored and transactional.
Ah, so Jesse thinks it is just business.
Exactly. It is a calculated technique used by predators who cast a wide net. They know that a desperate, exhausted victim will interpret a lack of emotion as a lack of immediate threat.
That makes so much sense. So Jesse gets to the cabin, and the sensory details are just horrifying. The place smells overwhelmingly of heavy industrial bleach and old copper.
Which is such an alarming combination.
And on top of that, there is a dark, tinted SUV parked backward at the tree line. It is aimed perfectly at the single exit lane, ready to pull out.
Blocking him in.
But Jesse is so far gone, he just walks inside, drops the cash, leaves his clothes on, and passes out on the mattress.
Which goes back to the biology of it. The olfactory system, our sense of smell, is directly hardwired to the amygdala, which is the brain's fear center.
So his brain knew something was wrong.
Oh, definitely. The smell of old copper is how the human nose interprets the iron in blood. And industrial bleach is a known chemical masking agent.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that paints a grim picture.
Even through the fog of exhaustion, Jesse's primitive brain was registering a kill room. But his conscious mind recategorized it as just a quirky, rundown motel simply because his body desperately needed that mattress.
It is the ultimate example of alarm fatigue. You know, like in medicine. If a heart monitor beeps all day, nurses eventually just stop hearing it.
That is a great analogy.
Yeah. Jesse's brain treated the bleach, the creepy SUV, the pinned curtains as annoying background noise. So he sleeps. But he wakes up freezing in the pitch black.
And this is where it gets so tense.
The bedroom door, which he explicitly remembers latching, is now open an inch. And then he hears it. A low, heavy, deliberate, metallic click.
Oh, man.
Silence. Then another click. He grabs his flashlight, creeps into the hallway, and sees fresh, pale wood shavings on the floorboards.
Someone was working while he slept.
Yes. Someone has just installed a brand new, massive steel slide bolt on the inside of a cellar door, and that bolt has just been pulled back.
Which means the predator didn't arrive in the SUV.
No.
He was already in the house, waiting in the earth beneath the floorboards.
It is pure nightmare fuel. So Jesse runs for his life. He backs his rig out blind through the ruts, noticing the SUV is actually gone now, but its deep tire tracks deliberately block the exit lane.
They tried to trap him.
Yeah, but he manages to maneuver around them and escape. But let me play devil's advocate here for a second. The next morning, Jesse calls the state police, and they completely brush it off as a patchwork of old timber claims.
Right, they just do not want to deal with it.
So, if this is such an obvious trap, why assume it is anything paranormal or deeply conspiratorial? I mean, could this not just be an underfunded rural county ignoring a squatter?
Well, it is not necessarily supernatural at this stage, I grant you that. But the apathy of the authorities is actually a feature of the trap. It is not a bug.
What do you mean?
Predators intentionally operate in these liminal spaces, jurisdictional gray areas, unmapped timber claims, county borders.
Places where no one is really in charge.
Exactly. They exploit the fact that rural law enforcement is stretched thin. The indifference of the system creates a sanctuary for human predation.
That is so dark, but it is true. That reliance on systems to protect us, whether it is the police or modern technology, is exactly what leaves us so vulnerable when those systems fail.
We really do put too much blind faith in them.
We assume we are safe as long as we have a signal. Which brings us perfectly to Ethan Vance's encounter in September 2022.
Right, the timber cruiser.
Yes. Ethan is a timber cruiser mapping logging boundaries near the Canadian border in Bangor, Maine. He relies entirely on a high-definition corporate GPS tablet. He is in total isolation, surrounded by dense, freezing marshland.
See, the false security of technology is a massive blind spot here. A GPS maps the physical topography of the land, sure, but it doesn't map the trauma or the history embedded in that terrain.
Exactly. About 5 miles into his route, on an abandoned logging path, Ethan sees a woman standing by a drainage ditch.
In the middle of nowhere.
It is 45 degrees outside, but she is barefoot in freezing black mud. She's wearing a thin yellow sundress and clutching a heavy leather satchel.
That is so jarring.
Ethan stops, rolls down the window, and the woman speaks in a completely flat, emotionless voice. She says she needs a ride to the caretaker cabin.
What's fascinating here is the sudden pronoun shift.
Oh, right. She doesn't say I need a ride.
No, she doesn't say I need a ride. She says she needs a ride. It creates this immediate, uncanny valley effect. It suggests severe psychological dissociation, or maybe that the entity speaking isn't entirely aligned with the physical body Ethan is seeing.
It gets weirder, too. Ethan lets her into the cab of the truck, and the enclosed space instantly fills with that exact same suffocating smell from Jesse's story in Oregon. Old copper and damp earth.
We have to pause on that sensory overlap for a second. We are on the opposite side of the continent now, yet the scent profile is perfectly identical.
Okay, but hold on, let me challenge that one too. Ethan is in a freezing marshland in Bangor. Couldn't the smell of damp earth and copper just be swamp gas?
Swamp gas.
Yeah, I mean, hydrogen sulfide from a stagnant drainage ditch can easily smell metallic and rotten. Plus, isolation can cause extreme auditory and visual hallucinations. So why are we jumping to the conclusion that this is a paranormal entity?
Okay, the swamp gas hypothesis is actually a solid physiological explanation for the smell alone, but we have to look at the co-occurrence of these anomalies.
Fair point.
It isn't just the smell. It is the impossible geography that follows. Hallucinations do not typically manifest with hyper-specific architectural details that actively contradict high-definition satellite mapping.
That is true, because Ethan checks his corporate map, and it definitively shows no caretaker cabin in this grid.
Not a single structure.
He tells the woman this, and she doesn't react. She just stares unblinking at the side mirror. Then her voice drops to a razor-thin whisper, and she delivers the warning.
The same warning.
She says, "The woman who lived there before me left a note hidden under the floorboards. She told me not to stop. If he comes out to the truck, do not put the truck in park. Do not stop the wheels from turning."
It is the viral warning, but twisted. She is referencing a lineage of victims.
Yeah.
The woman who lives there before me.
Like a chain of people.
It implies an unbroken chain of people who were lured to this specific geographic coordinate, failed to heed the warning, and are now trapped there.
And at mile 11, they actually reach a structure. It is a windowless shack made of mismatched plywood and corrugated tin, and it is actively spewing thick, greasy black smoke into the air.
Just completely out of place.
Ethan is terrified, but following her warning, he refuses to put the truck in park. He keeps it rolling at 5 miles an hour. The woman opens the door and steps out of the moving truck with this bizarre mechanical precision.
As if she has rehearsed that exact exit 1,000 times.
She walks straight to the shack, and a tall, abnormally wide man wearing a dark-stained canvas apron steps out.
The big man again.
He completely ignores the woman, locks eyes with Ethan through the windshield, and starts striding aggressively toward the truck, reaching deep into his pocket.
Oh, that is terrifying.
Ethan doesn't wait to find out what is in the pocket. He floors it, driving 70 miles an hour down a rutted path meant for 15 just to survive.
And this is exactly where the hallucination theory just completely falls apart.
Because 2 days later, state police actually go up to that exact GPS coordinate. The clearing is empty. The shack does not exist.
Nothing is there.
All they find is a moss-covered stone foundation from a cabin that burned down in the 1970s. And there are 0 tire tracks besides Ethan's, no footprints in the mud where the woman walked, nothing.
Parapsychologists often discuss the stone tape theory.
What is that?
It is the idea that extreme emotional trauma can imprint itself on the physical environment, almost like replaying like a recording under the right atmospheric conditions.
So the environment itself remembers.
Right. But the woman interacting with Ethan, smelling like copper, leaving physical mud in the truck, yet vanishing from the earth. That suggests something far more complex.
Not just a recording, then.
No, it seems like she is caught in an endless loop, forced to manifest and pass on the exact warning that failed to save her decades ago.
Man, that is incredibly tragic.
Which brings us to the ultimate clash between the inexplicable and cold, hard logic. Our third account comes from October 2023 in Martin County, Indiana.
The auditor's story. Right. The narrator, Alan Cross, goes out of his way to establish his absolute skepticism. He is a 51-year-old senior compliance auditor. He trusts data. He trusts rules. He proudly states he lacks an imagination.
A compliance auditor is professionally trained to identify anomalies in structured environments. Their brain is literally wired to notice when a protocol is broken.
So Alan is staying at a completely ordinary roadside cabin, specifically room 2. It was recommended by his brother-in-law, Greg. Nothing spooky about it.
Just a normal trip.
Until 3:15 a.m., the plastic wall clock in the kitchen abruptly stops ticking. Alan is a light sleeper, and the sudden, dead silence wakes him up.
Just the absence of sound.
He gets out of bed, assumes the battery died, and pulls the clock off the wall. But when he opens the back, there is no battery inside.
The mundane suddenly becoming impossible.
Wedged tightly into the terminal slot is a piece of yellow notebook paper. The handwriting is jagged, pressed down so violently it almost tears through the page.
Someone was desperate when they wrote that.
And the note says, "She told me not to stop. When we saw the stalled truck on the highway, I stopped anyway." If you are reading this, the owner knows someone is inside a room today. 2, do not look through the peephole if the porch light goes out.
The precision of that threat is just staggering. It outlines exactly what the predator's trigger will be.
Here is where it gets really interesting. Literally seconds after Alan reads those words, the yellow porch light outside clicks off.
The environment immediately aligns with the written warning. The trap is springing right then and there.
Then, a heavy, dull thud hits the wooden planks of the front porch. Alan describes it sounding like a massive, heavy sack of wet soil being dropped.
And human nature would be to go look, right?
Yeah. If Alan were a character in a horror movie, curiosity would compel him to walk up to that door and look through the peephole. But Alan's brain doesn't work like that.
Because of his professional training.
Exactly. His rigid auditor training actually saves his life here. He didn't freeze in denial or try to investigate the anomaly.
He just reacted to the data.
His brain treated that handwritten warning note like an urgent, catastrophic compliance failure. The rules of safety had been violated, so he initiated an immediate evacuation protocol.
That is amazing.
He bypasses the front door entirely, crawls out the back bedroom window into the freezing damp grass, and sneaks around to his car. When he turns the ignition and hits the high beams, they illuminate the front porch.
And what is waiting for him?
Standing inches from the front door is a very tall person, wrapped head to toe in a heavy, dark blue plastic tarp secured with yellow rope.
Oh my God.
They are holding a rusted iron crowbar, standing perfectly still, just staring into Alan's windshield. Alan throws the car in reverse and tears out of the gravel driveway.
He survived by short-circuiting the predator's script. The predator fully expected him to look through the peephole.
But the aftermath of the story is just infuriating. Alan reports this to the local police, and they brush it off, telling him the property owner is a highly respected member of the community.
Typical.
But Alan doesn't let it go. 6 months later, he runs a search through the digital archives of the local newspaper. He discovers that just 3 weeks before his stay, a female tourist from Ohio abandoned her car 3 miles from that exact cabin and was never seen again.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the implication is devastating. We have to assume the missing Ohio woman wrote that frantic note on the yellow paper.
It had to be her.
But the note says, "She told me not to stop when we saw the stalled truck." Who warned the Ohio woman?
It is an endless chain. The Ohio woman was warned by some unknown. She ignored it, was captured, but managed in her final hours to cram a note into a clock to save whoever rented room 2 next.
It is a relay race of trauma. And what Alan's story perfectly illustrates is how our modern frameworks completely collapse when confronted with the primal hidden violence of the deep woods.
None of it helps.
Right. Alan's compliance protocols, Ethan's corporate GPS mapping, Jesse's logistical trucking networks. None of these modern systems offer actual protection against an apex predator operating off the grid.
Wait, I have to push back on the police response in Indiana. Highly respected member of the community. Are we looking at a supernatural curse that spans 3 states? Or are we just looking at small-town corruption?
It could be both, honestly.
Could the property owner just be a serial killer and the police are covering it up because he has local influence?
It could absolutely be small-town corruption, but that is precisely the horror here. The true terror isn't just the man in the tarp with a crowbar. It is the institutional complicity that allows him to exist.
The cover-up is part of the nightmare.
The system actively ignores the warnings. The police brush off Alan to protect a local reputation. They brush off Jesse because navigating old timber claims requires too much paperwork.
It is just easier to look away.
These traps function because civilization willfully turns a blind eye to the violence happening just 1 inch past the tree line.
It is institutionalized vulnerability. We outsource our survival to police and GPS satellites, and when they fail, we are left totally defenseless against the dark.
And that brings us back to the most unsettling mystery embedded in all these sources, the original warning.
Yeah, the source of it all.
Why do these locations shift thousands of miles across the country? From the foggy highways of Oregon to the frozen swamps of Maine to a roadside cabin in Indiana, but the terrible motifs remain flawlessly identical.
The exceptionally tall, massive man, the metallic primitive smell of copper and bleach, and the exact, unvarying phrasing of the warning.
It suggests an organized mechanism of predation that predates our highways.
Like it has always been there.
Exactly. It suggests that the she who originally warned everyone isn't just one person, but an amalgamation of every victim who ever realized too late that the rules of civilization had vanished.
So what does this all mean? We started this deep dive talking about the expectation of order, the comfort of the painted white lines on the asphalt, the belief that if you follow the rules, you are safe.
But you are not.
No, you aren't. So the next time you are driving on an empty stretch of dark road, the fog is rolling in thick, your vision is swimming from exhaustion, and your glowing GPS screen suggests you pull over into an unlit, unpaved clearing just to rest your eyes. I want you to ask yourself who you are really trusting in that moment.
It's a heavy question.
Are you relying on a piece of technology communicating with a satellite floating cold and indifferent in the vacuum of space? Or are you ignoring an ancient, quiet instinct whispering in your ear, telling you exactly what the women in these stories tried to warn us about? Don't stop. Keep driving.